Hey everyone, Josh Hasten here. Israel Uncensored, the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com, and we are recording on Facebook Live as well. Hope you're doing well in your part of the world. Always get in touch with me via email, josh@thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten, and on Twitter, @Josh Hasten. I hope everyone had a wonderful Yom HaAtzmaut, celebrating the 70th anniversary of the birth of the modern state of Israel. I certainly had a great time watching those planes flying through the sky. Always very, very emotional, knowing that after 2,000 years, we have our own army, we have our own air force, the Jewish people are home, and we are able to defend ourselves here in the land of Israel. Hope you're doing well. It's April 22nd, 2018, the 7th of ER. 5778 is the Hebrew date. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things on today's show. Part of it recorded live here on Facebook, and the rest you can listen to tomorrow. The rest of the show, we're of course going to talk about Natalie Portman and the whole controversy. I'll give my take. I've been giving my take over the last 48 hours on Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later, but and along with a bunch of other things. But I want to start with the situation in the South. Over the weekend, again, the fourth week of these violent protests, attempts by Hamas and those who are under their power, women and children, being forced towards the border, trying to infiltrate into Israel, and of course the IDF bravely, the brave soldiers of the IDF doing what they have to do in order to keep this foreign terror entity out of the border communities. Yet somehow, again, Israel being criticized for its actions, its necessary actions on the border there with Gaza. Front page of today's Jerusalem Post. Anna Ehrenheim, who, by the way, we had on the show last week. Go back and check that out if you missed that. Defense and military correspondent for the J-Post reports that both the EU and the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, Nikolay Mladonov, singled out Israel on Saturday, blaming the country for the death of a 15-year-old Palestinian in the fourth Friday of protests on the Gaza border. He said the following in his tweet: "It is outrageous to shoot at children. How does the killing of a child in Gaza today help peace? It doesn't. It fuels anger and breeds more killing." And the European Union was quick to follow with a statement released saying that they agree with Malanov, saying, quote, "A full investigation is needed to understand what happened and why." Well, I'll tell you what happened, and I'll tell you why. It's very simple. You have a Nazi-inspired terror organization along Israel's border there, encouraging women and children to approach the fence. Israel said clearly, if you come within, I think it's 300 meters of the fence, then we will shoot because you present a danger to our country, to our border communities. So this 15-year-old gets shot, is killed, and the world goes crazy. This, of course, is for Hamas is a victory because they send the kids out and they hope for incidents like this in which kids are killed, so that that way they can turn it in their favor, the public opinion battle, and say Israel's shooting children. They have that victory. And again, why does it happen? Well, because of Hamas. It's that simple. Yet the European Union, the UN, criticizing Israel over what happened there. Yet at the same time, you have in Nicaragua over the last 24, 48 hours, riots in the streets of one of the cities there in Nicaragua. You have 25 people killed by police who are protesting, I think, for Social Security benefits or whatnot. 25 people killed, and the UN Special Envoy for Latin America or South America is not saying a word. There's no emergency UN sessions. There's no condemnation by the European Union. And a journalist was killed there. We had the incident here where a journalist was killed, an apparent journalist was killed. And many sources say he was, in fact, a member of Hamas several weeks ago, and the world went crazy. The EU went crazy. European Union went nuts. 25 dead in Nicaragua, including a legitimate journalist, and silence. One UN agency apparently said they are concerned about what's going on, and that was it. They dropped it there just to show you the hypocrisy the hypocrisy by the world community when it comes to Israel, holding Israel to a different standard, obsessed with Israel, focused on Israel, and not allowing us, at least trying not to allow us, to defend ourselves when necessary, wherever necessary. But thank God, those are not the marching orders. The marching orders are if a terrorist, if somebody approaches the border fence, whether you're 15 or 115 years old, it doesn't make a difference. You could be a threat, and therefore you are going to get shot. I mean, that's the reality of it. God forbid one terrorist gets into a border community, and God forbid something happens there. I'd rather this be the reality, unfortunate as it is, that our soldiers are using ammunition, live fire on the border with Gaza. I'd rather be doing that than, God forbid, having to bury somebody because Israel decided to back off and somebody got through. Again, the fourth week in a row. Less numbers apparently each and every week, but it's still going on. At the same time here, we're talking about Hamas. Israeli security forces arrested 15 Hamas members, 15 terrorists in raids in Judea and Samaria late Saturday night and early Sunday morning, according to Times of Israel. According to a statement from the IDF, a joint operation by the army, the Shin Bet, that's Israel Security Services, Israel Police, targeting individuals who had been in contact with senior Hamas members, were receiving instructions from Gaza on how to carry out different attacks in Judea and Samaria. 15 members of Hamas arrested overnight. Thank God for the IDF. Thank God we have the protection anywhere in the country, whether it's south, north, east, or west. We have the IDF. Don't mess with the IDF. They are strong. We are strong. And they will find you eventually. So thank God for that. At the same time, one other story before we turn off the Facebook Live and record the rest of the show. Avigdor Lieberman, the defense minister, is asking Egypt to stop the return of Hamas engineers' body to Gaza. This is the Jerusalem Post. And by the way, the last story was Times of Israel. I want to get that clear. There was a Hamas member killed in Malaysia the other day. Of course, Israel's being accused of assassinating him. We don't have the behind the scenes on that yet. We don't have a full report. Israel is not taking credit for that, but they are bringing the body of this Hamas member, or trying to at least, to Gaza for burial through Egypt. And Israel is asking Egypt not to allow the body to go through the Rafah crossing, not to allow the body to be brought back to Egypt until the bodies of Hadar Golden, of blessed memory, an IDF soldier who's being held by Hamas, is returned, along with soldier Oren Shaul, both soldiers who were killed in the 2014 war in Gaza. So the families are, particularly the Golden family, is stressing that we should not allow the body of this terrorist back into Gaza for burial until these bodies, the bodies of our IDF soldiers, are released. I agree with the family wholeheartedly. I hope the defense minister is very, very strong on this point with the Egyptians, does not cave to any pressure, and does not allow Egypt to allow the body to be brought back for Gaza. This master terrorist, what do they call him, the rocket maker, or whoever he is, horrible, horrible person. Here, he was an expert on attack drone and rocket systems, according to Israeli sources. His name here of the terrorist, I don't have his name here, but Batash was his last name, a 35-year-old terrorist. And I hope here it is, Fadi Muhammad al-Batash. So I hope our leaders are strong in this point. Don't allow him to be brought back. The least they can do is give us back the bodies of our soldiers. Education Minister Naftali Bennett told Army Radio that he agrees. He's going to bring up the subject with Prime Minister Netanyahu, not to allow burial for this terrorist in Gaza until we get the bodies of our soldiers back. So that's where we're starting today's show. For those watching on Facebook Live, thanks for joining us here. It is Sunday afternoon. I am in beautiful Gush Etzion. Hope all is well with you wherever you are watching in your part of the world. And if you are listening on Monday, when this audio is put out there for your listening pleasure, I hope it is. I hope you're doing well in your part of the world. We're going to take a break and then come back. We're going to turn off the Facebook Live and talk about Natalie Portman. She's been like top story around here in Israel. I'll give you my take on the situation involving Natalie Portman deciding to boycott, which she says Prime Minister Netanyahu, but essentially she's boycotting Israel because she is not showing up to pick up her Genesis Prize, which was she was due to receive a little bit later on in the year. Josh at thelandofisrael.com is my email. On Facebook, it's at Joshua Hasten rather. On Twitter, it's at Josh Hasten. And don't go anywhere. If you're listening on the radio, if you're watching on Facebook, we're turning you off right now. Have a wonderful day, and hope we will talk again soon. Be right back.
I'm always quite pleased when I hear that terrorists meet their end, because, of course, it's yet another terrorist who is unable to kill innocent people.
Eve Harrow, Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. This week, I had an exclusive interview with retired British Colonel Richard Kemp. Vast experience here in the Middle East, tremendous appreciation for Israel and specifically for the Israeli armed forces.
It's the first time in history, really, that they have actually wanted their own people to be killed by Israel.
Wonderful interview. Don't miss it. That's only on Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network.
And we are back. Josh Hasten here, Israel Uncensored, on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com. Thanks so much for joining us. It is April 22nd, 2018, when I'm recording the show from Gush Etzion, Israel, just south of Jerusalem. It's the 7th of ER 5778. Hope you are doing well in your part of the world. We just got done with the Facebook Live portion. If you missed any of it, go back and you can either listen to the entire show here at Land of Israel Network, or you can watch that section, the video aspect of it, on my Facebook page, Joshua Hasten. Anyway, also get in touch with me, Josh at thelandofisrael.com, and on Twitter at Josh Hasten. Now, Natalie Portman, the Oscar award-winning actress, Jewish, Israeli, and she has been in the news here in Israel probably like never before, unfortunately, because she has decided that she is not coming to Israel to receive her award. It's called the Genesis Prize Award. She was due to receive $2 million, and she's not showing up. And right now we're trying to find out exactly why. So a statement was released by the Genesis Prize indicating on Friday that they had received a note, perhaps, or were told, I'm not sure exactly, by Representative Natalie Portman, saying that due to, quote, recent events in Israel, which have been extremely distressing for Natalie Portman, she is not showing up. Now, what are those events extremely distressing? Some people think we're talking about the situation in Gaza. Others are thinking maybe we're talking about the African illegal migrants or illegal infiltrators from Africa. Not exactly sure. So that happened on Friday. Genesis Prize reported that a statement was released, and then by Saturday night, at some point, Friday, Saturday, not sure exactly when, Natalie Portman herself released a statement saying that her decision not to attend the Genesis Prize ceremony has been mischaracterized by others. Let me speak for myself. I chose not to attend because I did not want to appear as endorsing Benjamin Netanyahu, who was to be giving a speech at the ceremony. By the same token, I'm not part of the BDS movement, do not endorse it. Like many Israelis and Jews around the world, I can be critical of the leadership of Israel without wanting to boycott the entire nation. She says, I treasure my Israeli friends and family, Israeli food, book, art, cinema, and dance. Israel was created exactly 70 years ago as a haven for refugees from the Holocaust. These are her words. But the mistreatment of those suffering from today's atrocities is simply not in line with my Jewish values. Because I care about Israel, I must stand up against violence, corruption, inequality, abuse, and power. Please do not take any words that do not come directly from me as my own. This experience has inspired me to support a number of charities in Israel. I will be announcing them soon, and I hope others will join me in supporting the great work they are doing. Number one, she can skip the last part about announcing what charities she's supporting because the Genesis Prize has decided they're going to make the decision, they're going to hand out the money, and not leave it up to Natalie Portman because of the snub. So, I penned this, open letter to Natalie Portman based on what she wrote, based on her direct response. And I said the following. I said, number one, dear Natalie, by not showing up to receive your award, you're giving BDS the victory, whether you're part of the movement or not. Now, if you look on Twitter, on social media, you already see BDS groups who are praising Natalie Portman. They are taking credit for their activities in boycotting Israel and are basically saying, Natalie Portman, you are now one of us, even if that was not her stated intention. You even have Omar Barghouti, a co-founder of the BDS movement, who said in an email to the New York Times, this latest rebuff to Israeli cultural events and accolades coming from an Israeli-American superstar is arguably one of the strongest indicators yet of how toxic the Israel brand has become, even in some liberal circles in Hollywood. So whether she intended to or not, her snub of Prime Minister Netanyahu, she says she's unaffiliated with BDS, is a victory for BDS. They're taking credit. Groups like JVP, anti-Israel extremist organizations are sending out memes thanking Natalie Portman. So even if her intention was just to snub the Prime Minister, and we'll get to that in a second, her end result is a victory for BDS. Now, in my opinion, appearing at an event with Bibi Netanyahu, the democratically elected Prime Minister of Israel, doesn't mean she's endorsing him. Okay, he wasn't supposed to be presenting her an award to garner votes. I don't think she votes. She's an Israeli, but I don't think she votes here. He's not trying to get votes. You show up to respect the state, no matter who the leader is, in my opinion, left, right, or center. On top of that, Natan Sharansky, the head of the Jewish Agency, the world-famous Soviet refusnik, author of many books, he is actually in charge of the selection committee of the Genesis Prize. So her boycott is actually an affront to Natan Sharansky, in my opinion. So why hurt Natan Sharansky? Why do that to him? I asked Natalie Portman. Now, in regard to what she calls atrocities, again, it's not clear if she's talking about Gaza or the African situation, the migrants, the illegals. While she obviously has no grasp of reality, since she's calling, if we're talking about Gaza, if she's calling Israel's self-defense measures atrocities, maybe showing up and presenting her side, her opinion to the Prime Minister in a respectful manner would be the way to go. She talks about Jewish values. If in fact those atrocities in her mind are IDF defensive measures on the Gaza border, then I ask, when is being a victim a Jewish value? God forbid, as I said earlier in the show, one Hamas member gets in and carries out a massacre, God forbid, at an Israeli community. Maybe then we would get support from her and from others if in fact she's talking about Gaza. I would rather that not happen. I'd rather she save that and save her judgment and say whatever she wants in terms of accusing Israel of atrocities. And I'd rather have that community on the southern border of Israel safe. But again, here I'm speculating as to what she means because her statement is so ambiguous. It's so unclear. The bottom line, my point is, being a victim is not Judaism. And finally, in her statement, she talks about the state of Israel created 70 years ago as a haven for refugees from the Holocaust. Let me be clear here. Israel wasn't created as a haven for Holocaust refugees. Israel has been the Jewish homeland for thousands of years. You want to talk about modern times? Modern Zionism, Herzl, etc., came well before the Holocaust as well. You could argue that countries supported a Jewish state after the Holocaust, but making a statement indicating that we came out of nowhere because of the Holocaust is simply not true. So next time Natalie Portman is in town, I would encourage her to visit the city of David, where you can see 3,000 years of Jewish history unfolding before your eyes. With all due respect, and I've said this before on my show, to Yad Vashem, the amazing work they do at Yad Vashem, I think every foreign dignitary, every VIP who lands in Israel should visit first the city of David to see where we came from. So people don't go on thinking Israel was created as a result of the Holocaust, as if this was a new invention because of what happened in Nazi Germany between 1941 and 1945, because that's not true. That's why I've always said on my show, the city of David should be the top destination for any VIPs immediately as they land here in Israel. In addition, this whole situation could have been handled differently. Natalie Portman she's an A-lister. She's an Academy Award-winning actress. You can't get bigger than that in the world of Hollywood. So if she didn't want the Prime Minister of Israel to give her the award, I'm sure she would have some leverage to call up Genesis and say, listen, let's keep this out of the press. Let's not make a big stink about it. I want to come and receive the award, but please, let's not have the Prime Minister present me the award. I would bet somebody reasonable would say we could make that happen, even though apparently the Prime Minister's office is also a partner along with the Jewish Agency and with the Genesis Prize in making this award a reality. That being said, I'm sure if she said, I want Natan Sharansky, I want this so-and-so, I'm sure she could have been accommodated, and this could have been done behind the scenes without going to the press, releasing statements, and having to go through all this madness and being like the top trending topic on Twitter. This didn't have to happen, okay? And that way, if it was done quietly, no BDS accusations would have been thrown her way, because nobody would have known. Nobody would have even known that she was against that. In the past, she's spoken out against Prime Minister Netanyahu. Fair enough. But she didn't have to go down this path. She wanted to make a point, and she wanted to stick it to Bibi, the Prime Minister. She was disrespectful. And in the end, in my opinion, this was a BDS victory. But by the way, you should know that all her problems with the Prime Minister, whatever they are, Natalie Portman had no problem going to the Beijing Film Festival there. China is kosher, and Israel is treif, in her opinion. The leaders of China, no problem. The Prime Minister of the State of Israel, he's a problem. On the website, Israeli Cool, Aussie Dave, he actually goes as far as saying that what she did, her statement is nothing short of a blood libel that also attacks the very foundational stone of Zionism. He says, and I quote here, Portman publicly accuses Israel of committing atrocities, a blood libel, plain and simple. Israel, he says, is not committing atrocities. What is happening on the border with Gaza is tragic, but it is all the fault of the terrorist group controlling Gaza, Hamas. Finally, he adds, when a famous Jewish person with a voice like Portman wields such an allegation irresponsibly, she encourages and emboldens those who want to harm Israel, especially Israeli soldiers. After all, if the Jewish Portman, Natalie Portman, is saying that Israelis are committing atrocities, would it not be a moral act to try and stop them, as the Islamist terrorist supporters often say, by, quote, any means necessary? Portman's statement endangers Israeli lives, says Aussie Dave, especially the lives of Israeli soldiers. In other words, bottom line, when you side with BDS, intentionally or unintentionally, this inspires the terrorists to keep going. This sends them a message of an A-list Hollywood actress, as Barghouti there said, as I mentioned before, is on their side, at least in their minds. It is an inspiration to keep on going, and it's an inspiration that they can get away with their terror and their attacks. So this is unfortunate, and Natalie Portman messed this up big time. Big time, intentionally or not, this was a huge faux pas. Anyway, that's enough Natalie Portman for today. There are many other theories. You can check them out online, different blogs, Times of Israel, and people writing these open letters to Natalie Portman, trying to understand why the Genesis Prize released a statement at all. Like, why did it come from them, which is fishy within itself. So there are other theories out there. But bottom line, she should have shown up. She should have either used the opportunity to say thank you, or if she wanted to, she could have said thank you, but, and then gone and explained what's upsetting her. But now boycotting Israel, or boycotting the Prime Minister, has become a boycott of Israel. And for that, she has made a major, major mistake from someone who in the past has been this symbol, if you will, to some at least, of this Israeli Hebrew speaker, Jewish, even though apparently her husband isn't Jewish. I have no idea if he converted or not or what his story is, but now she has tarnished her reputation, I believe, here in Israel within the Jewish community. Moving on to other news. Here's something positive. This reported by the Jerusalem Post, an annual U.S. government report on human rights worldwide in 2017 has dropped, I say, reference to the Palestinian territories as occupied. This is for the first time since 1979. The State Department report released on Friday now lists its section on Israel and the territories by their names, Gaza and the West Bank, along with the Golan Heights. Okay, I don't like the term West Bank. I don't use the term West Bank, but it's an improvement. Slowly, folks. It's an improvement over the term occupied Palestinian territories. Maybe one day, very soon, they'll start calling these areas Judea and Samaria. Perhaps. If anybody can get it done, it's the Trump administration and Ambassador David Friedman, who referred to Israel's policy earlier this year as an alleged occupation. He said to the Jerusalem Post, he reportedly directed the State Department in December to stop using the term altogether. So thank you, David Friedman, for setting the record straight. And hopefully, please God, we'll hear the words Judea and Samaria from the U.S. administration very, very soon. And maybe it'll spill over here to Israel, where they don't talk about occupation anymore or settlements or all those terms, which are just propaganda against the state of Israel. Moving on here, Israel National News reports that Yesh Atid chairman Yair Lapid announced earlier today that his faction will support legislation enabling the Knesset to oust Israeli Arab lawmaker Haneen Zoabi from office. Lapid said that he decided that Zoabi needs to be booted from the Knesset after she said several weeks ago that, quote, millions of Palestinians should march on Jerusalem following the riots in Gaza. The incident joins a long list of similar statements by Zoabi, who is known for her outspoken opposition to Zionism and her open support for Hamas. That's Haneen Zoabi, a fifth column here in Israel. She is using her immunity as a member of the Israeli parliament, the Israeli Knesset, in order to bash the IDF and the state of Israel time and time again. And we could probably do a whole show just on what Haneen Zoabi said over the years against the state of Israel, a state where she has citizenship, a state that is 20% Arab, yet she uses her position, her perch to bash the modern state of Israel. And finally, Iran Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif on Saturday told U.S. television Face the Nation on CBS in an interview, which is going to air today, that if President Trump withdraws from the 2015 nuclear agreement come May the 12th, that's the day when he needs to make a decision whether he's going to waive sanctions against Iran or kill the deal, then Iran's response would involve resuming at a much greater speed their nuclear activities. Somehow, on the same day, though, Zarif told other reporters in New York that Iran does not plan to build a nuclear bomb. So which one is it here? Are they going to continue their nuclear activities? Or on the other hand, as he told reporters, they are not interested in building a nuclear bomb. Which one is it? So, to summarize here by David Israel at the Jewish Press, should Trump put the Iran sanctions back, Iran will get mad and speed up a nuclear bomb program that apparently it doesn't even have, because he indicated they don't even have a nuclear program. Only apparently if Trump decides to kill the deal, all of a sudden they have a nuclear program. He is just spinning it left and right, going back and forth, saying one thing, talking out of both sides of his mouth. It is clear to me that Iran is on the path towards a nuclear weapon, even with the sanctions in place. So maybe it'll take a little longer with the sanctions, but it was a bad nuclear deal. It paved the way, as our Prime Minister said, paved the path towards a nuclear Iran. Prime Minister of Israel Netanyahu has vowed, as has President Trump, that the Iranians will not go nuclear, they will not get the bomb, and even if it's in our hands alone here in Israel, this must be dealt with before they reach the point of no return and they become a threat to Israel and the entire world, a threat to our security and the security of the entire world. That is going to do it here today on Israel Uncensored. If you have any comments, questions, thoughts, love the show, hate the show, whatever it is, please get in touch with me during the week. Josh at thelandofisrael.com. On Facebook, it's Joshua Hasten. On Twitter, at Josh Hasten. Shout out to number one, Binyamin Bresky, engineer extraordinaire, for making all this possible, making sure we have the shows up and running. I want to give a shout out also to all the other hosts on the network for the wonderful work they do week in and week out in bringing you programming from Israel that you're just not getting anywhere else. Again, for the 22nd of April, 2018, the 7th of ER 5778 recording from Gush Etzion, Israel. My name is Josh Hasten. Most importantly, between now and when we talk again next week, everybody out there, be safe. Shalom, shalom. Gush Etzion, Israel.